Hi everyone, welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on day 2 of our article about Florence Nightingale. So what did we learn yesterday? We learned that Florence Nightingale knew she wanted to help people. And she was from a wealthy family, but back in 1820, that just meant you got married to an equally wealthy guy from a family just like yours. But Florence Nightingale rejected a marriage proposal arranged by her parents in order to train as a nurse.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I guess the way we could think of it today would be like if your family is a big doctor family and your parents and grandparents were doctors and you say, I want to be a rock star. They might lose their minds and feel like, no, you're doing a terrible thing. That's kind of the pressure Florence Nightingale would have been facing by saying, no, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be a housewife. I want to help people by being a nurse. That's the career that she chose. It's a great career if helping people is your goal. And of course, this was a career that wasn't really acceptable or respected the way it is today. I guess if many parents today heard that their sons or daughters wanted to be nurses, they might think, great, that's a good career. People respect it. You get paid fairly well. You know, it's that you're helping people. Back then, no. One problem Florence had, of course, was that many people back then, along with not understanding why a rich girl would want to be a nurse, also didn't understand sanitation and hygiene. As we know it today, you would go to a doctor and they would have dirty hands with people's dried blood on it, and then they would be touching your face and going into your body, and all of that was not good. But Florence Nightingale, she had a feeling we shouldn't do it this way. We should do it another way.
Yeah, she encountered this when she went to Crimea to look after soldiers during a war.
Very dirty with a lot of hurt people.
Yes, the field hospital was terrible and it made it hard for her to treat patients. So she made sure it got cleaned and this immediately saved lives. People got better straight away. And to keep their spirits up and to keep them kind of holding on, she would walk around at night with an oil lamp checking on people, and that's where she got the name, the Lady with the Lamp.
A wonderful nurse taking care of wounded young men in war. What a great story.
That's not the end of her story, though. We're going to learn more about it in today's article.
Reading.
Florence Nightingale, the Lady with the Lamp. After the war, Florence returned to London. In 1860, she helped establish the Nightingale Home and Training School for Nurses. The school was built in her honor. By this time, Florence Nightingale had changed public opinion about nursing for the better, and her legacy lives on to this day. Today, people regard Florence as the mother of modern nursing. Every year on May 12th, people around the world celebrate International Nurses Day. This particular date was chosen to honor Florence, as it was the day of her birth. On International Nurses Day, people celebrate nurses and the hard work they do to keep us all healthy. Some countries recognize excellent nurses. Others run special activities educating people about the nursing profession. Rarely do medical emergencies as big as COVID-19 strike on a global scale. But when they do, nurses and other medical professionals play a very important role in society. They put their own lives in danger to help people who are infected. Now, more than ever, people understand the important work that nurses do.
All right, so the Crimean War did eventually end. And of course, when the war ended, everyone went home. And as we pick up today's story, we learn that that's what's happening. After the war, the Crimean War that we read about yesterday, after the war, Florence returned to London. And I guess she was very interested in continuing her career as a nurse. Well, actually now, she's a famous nurse.
And what does she do? Well, in 1860, she helped establish the Nightingale Home and Training School for nurses.
Cool.
So to kind of get more people following her methods, doing the cleaning and everything, doing it the right way. She helped establish this. To establish something, it's kind of like saying to set something up, but it's a little more formal. You help really organize it from the start. Maybe help to get the money that's needed to do the setting up, hire people, consult people, really get things going. You might say, Miles's great-grandfather established a hospital back in the 19th century. So he was the one that said, okay, I'm buying the land, I'm hiring builders, I'm going to hire some doctors to work here. I helped establish it.
And there might be his name on it or a statue of him in front of it. That's how you know that this person did this great thing of setting up this wonderful school, hospital, institution that has helped many people since then. And the school, of course, Florence Nightingale School, it says the school was built in her honor. Of course, she helped establish it, her name's on it. She got a lot of young women in Britain and around the world to be interested in having a career as a nurse. All of these are good things. And when someone does a lot of good things to society or to a country or to a group of people, other people, especially later on, might do things in that person's honor. You're doing it as a sign of respect. You're doing it as a way of remembering them, of bringing attention to them, of helping the younger generations know about them. That's why we have statues of people. We have holidays for special people. We name streets after people or things like that. It's done in order to honor those people or to do a big public show of respect and admiration.
Okay, so the article then goes on to say, by this time, so by the time the school was set up, Florence Nightingale had changed public opinion about nursing for the better, and her legacy lives on to this day. Got a few things to look at in this sentence. First, we're saying she changed nursing for the better. If you do something, and it's often change something for the better, you do it in a way that improves things. You make it better and you leave it a lot better than when you found it, which is, you know, a lot of people say that's what I want to do in any kind of job or with my life. Leave things in a better state than when I started.
And if you do that, you are certain to have a wonderful legacy. Well, we've learned a few different phrases about things we do for great people in society or in history. We do things in honor of them. We do things to show them respect. And of course, when you do something great, it will have effects that go on maybe long after you have died. And that will be your legacy. It's kind of like the ripple effect or the things that we get from someone like Florence Nightingale, who we never knew, will never meet, was from a different part of the world and died a long time ago. But there are still effects that we feel today because of the good things she did back then. That is her legacy. Sometimes it's a good legacy, sometimes it's a bad legacy. If you're a terrible person and hurt lots of people, then even, years after you're dead, people will still feel the effects of your evil, and that's a bad legacy. So of course, most people, and the ones we generally remember in history, they have good legacies.
And the idea of a legacy is that it lives on. And if something lives on, it means it continues in people's knowledge, it continues in people's memories, it continues to affect things in real life. Even after the person who created or started this thing has passed away, their name, their reputation, their actions, their knowledge, their discoveries can still live on and still impact the things we do today.
That's right. And if the legacy does go on even till the modern time we live in, we can say the legacy lives on to this day. That's just another way of saying to the present time, until now, the time we're living in, even though these things happened a long time ago.
And because of all that, we see in the article, today people regard Florence as the mother of modern nursing.
Yeah, kind of like the Escoffier of nursing.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I mentioned him yesterday. Every year, in fact, it says every year on May 12th, people around the world celebrate International Nurses Day.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Well, I'm glad there is, because they work very hard, often long hours. They certainly need to be honored and celebrated and paid more.
True.
The article then continues, this particular date was chosen to honor Florence as it was the day of her birth. Now, you could just say birthday here, it would make sense, but the day of her birth just means the same thing.
That's right. On International Nurses Day, people celebrate nurses and the hard work they do to keep us all healthy. And no, before you ask, nurses do not get the day off. That's part of being a nurse. It's hard to get a day off. We need them so much.
Okay. Now, different things will happen all around the world. This is International Nurses Day, and we learn some countries recognize excellent nurses.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, now we're using recognize in a slightly different way here, so let's learn how and why. So we often use recognize to mean, to look at something and you go, I know what that is. I know who that is. I recognize it. I've seen it before. But here we're using recognize to mean to give praise, to give approval to someone. You are showing that you have understood and you know about something good that they've done, and you want to kind of reward them, make people aware of what they've done, give them a prize, give them some attention, something like that. It's similar to what we looked at earlier with honoring somebody. The award, for example, the award was given to recognize Sergeant Anderson's 35 years of service as a police officer. So that happens in some countries. People would recognize nurses for the job they've done. You know, it's not quite a nurse of the year, but they would maybe talk to hospitals and go, look, have you got any nurses who've, done such a great job, or maybe they've been working for a certain amount of time, just so we can recognize them. We'll get their name out there. We'll thank them for what they've done, maybe give them an award or something just to show, hey, we know what you've done. We want to tell everybody about it and celebrate it. So that happens in some places.
Absolutely. We should do that, right? To the people who are currently nurses and are doing a fantastic job, we should definitely do things in honor of them. But what else? What else can we do to help the nursing profession? How about letting the next generation of future nurses know what a great career? That's another thing they do. Others run special activities educating people about the nursing profession. That can be, people just who have other jobs, kind of telling them what a nurse actually does, because I guess a few of us would be able to guess, but we don't have a full idea. But a lot of this would also be focused on students, kids, people still in school who haven't picked a career. They're getting to know more, learn more, and be more aware of nursing, the job of nursing, what it's like, how you become a nurse, all of that stuff. And when you learn more about things, or when you teach people about things, you are educating those people or educating yourself. You are getting knowledge and filling your brain with new, interesting, useful facts, because you don't want to be a dummy. So you educate yourself by reading, by talking to people, by going to school, by watching cool stuff on the internet. Not anime. I'm talking like documentaries and nature shows. I guess you could educate yourself with anime, but I'd say National Geographic might be a better place to start. But anyways, if you're learning more or teaching, you are educating yourself or another person. For example, more people need to be educated about the health problems caused by e-cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's true. We need to learn more about how these safe things are not safe.
That's right.
Yes.
And here we're talking about educating people in the nursing profession. Here we're using the word profession just as a synonym for a job, a career. The job of being a nurse is the nursing profession. So you might say Perry was always interested in pursuing a career in the legal profession. So that means he becomes, it could be a lawyer or so, trial lawyer, person in court, person in the back, knowing about the law.
Yeah, we often use it to kind of talk about whole categories of work, right? Talk about just doing something with the law, doing something in hospitals, the medical profession. But there's a lot of variety in there. Back to the article, it says, rarely do medical emergencies as big as COVID-19 strike on a global scale. Yes, and thank goodness for that. But right, nurses have been in the news and been in demand recently because COVID-19 struck the world at the same time, and everyone is getting sick, and we really needed people in hospitals.
Yeah, we've got a couple of words to look in that sentence, but first, let's check out today's language in focus. So what we just saw was an inverted sentence. Now we could have said medical emergencies as big as COVID-19 rarely strike on a global scale. There's nothing wrong with that sentence. However, by moving the adverb rarely to the front and making it the first word, we give more emphasis to it. We show that this really is a rare thing. It doesn't happen often at all. Now, when we do this, we usually have to add some kind of modal verb after that adverb. So a be verb or have, will, and in the case of our sentence, do. Rarely do emergencies like this happen. Now, we can use other adverbs instead of rarely here as well. They're often adverbs of frequency, such as barely, scarcely, hardly, or we can also use negatives like never. For example, never do I hear this song without thinking of my time in senior high school. So what the sentence means is big global emergencies like COVID-19 do not happen all the time. They are very rare and we should all be grateful for that.
That's right. We should feel very lucky because emergencies are not fun. Emergencies are urgent and dangerous situations. Something has gone terribly wrong. It happened just a short while ago and we need to do something about it now. We can't wait 3 hours. We can't say, oh, can we do that tomorrow? No, it's an emergency. The house is on fire. There's an earthquake. There was a car crash outside and people are hurt. They're lying in the street. These kinds of things are emergencies. If you ever think, I need to call the police, the fire department, an ambulance, I need to get help right now because something terrible is happening right around me, that is an emergency of some kind. For example, Dave got a phone call and then rushed out the door saying there was some kind of emergency. He seemed very panicked. He seemed very scared. He seemed like he needed to get out of here. So something must be going on and it must be bad.
Right. And we say that these kind of global emergencies rarely strike. Now, strike can mean to hit something. So yes, COVID-19 hit the world. We also use strike to mean kind of affect somebody or something, but it's in a sudden way. It's not like kind of slowly spreading around the world and you have a lot of time to prepare. It just hits. That's why we talk about an earthquake striking because you barely get any warning whatsoever.
Lightning strikes.
Yes, we could say a typhoon struck the island, although at least in that case we do have some preparation time, but it still hits very suddenly and it's got a big effect. We don't talk about things striking you if they're only going to cause a small effect. Not really. It's kind of a big, hard, quick effect. Here's an example sentence. Xavier was struck by how different Yolanda looked after she got a new haircut and a fashion makeover. Or you could say, when the earthquake struck, everybody in the tall building started to panic.
All right. And we also saw there the phrase on a global scale. When we talk about globes, global things, we're talking about the world. The world is a globe. It's a big round ball. Planets generally are globe-shaped. And when we use this adverb globally, we're talking about something that happens around the world, affects things around the world, not just in Africa, not just in Asia, but everywhere. So temperatures are rising globally, not just in the hot parts of the world, for example.
Or on a global scale.
On a global scale.
Yeah, the scale is a measure of how big something is, basically. So a global scale would mean on a size the size of the world.
There you go.
So these emergencies rarely happen. And the article then says, but when they do, nurses and other medical professionals play a very important role in society. Now remember, we use the word profession to mean a job. A professional is a person. It's a person who is paid for what they do. We mentioned medical professionals earlier. A medical professional would include doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers, paramedics, hospital workers, the people who run the tests in the hospitals. If they work in anything connected to the medical profession, they are professionals.
There you go. And medical professionals do a lot to keep us safe while putting their own health in danger of some kind. As it says, they put their own lives in danger to help people who are infected. Many of the people who got COVID-19 and possibly even who died of COVID-19 were doctors and nurses and other medical professionals because they were dealing with infected patients all the time, every day for months and months. If you're infected, basically you have an infection, some kind of bacteria, virus, disease has gotten in you, and it is in your body making you sick. You're not just kind of carrying it around in your germs. No, you feel sick because of that cold. You're not just passing on the cold, you feel the cold. It's making your body suffer in some kind of way.
Yeah, we use infection for diseases that you can pass very quickly between people. If you've got heart disease, you can't infect somebody else with heart disease.
Unless you just give them a lot of junk food.
Right, but you could with colds, viruses, flus, and of course COVID. So the article concludes by saying now, more than ever, people understand the important work that nurses do. And of course, all that goes back to what Florence Nightingale did in Crimea and the school she set up in London. Okay, that is the end of today's article, but we're not quite done yet. Let's now go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So today's question is, do you have any personal experience with nurses? Describe what happened.
Well, my mom's a nurse. She was a nurse. My wife was a nurse.
Okay.
So I have those personal experiences, I guess. But actually, I had some good, fun experiences with nurses here in Taiwan. Many years ago, I had surgery in a hospital. I didn't speak any Chinese. I'd only been here a few months. And the nurses, their English wasn't so good, but they were so sweet. They were so kind. They would come to my bed in the morning or at different times with little cards with English sentences written on them. And they would do their very best to make sure they would say like, do you have pain? Do you need bathroom? Do you want food? You know, and I would just say, no, I'm fine. Oh, no, thank you very much. But I just thought it was really cute. It was really sweet. They didn't have to do it. They could have pushed the one nurse who did speak English, but they all took their turn, and I helped them with their pronunciation. So they made my body better, and hopefully I made their English better.
Cool. I'm lucky in that so far I've not had to spend any lengthy period of time in hospital. So from my side as a patient, my interactions have all been very quick.
Good.
But I did work in, my dad is a doctor, was a doctor, and he had his own clinic, and the clinic had a nurse.
Must have some nurses there.
So yeah, my interactions with nurses have been more on sort of people I worked with, kind of seeing how much of a lot of day-to-day care that she did, because we'd say, look, the kind of problem you've got, patient number 2, you might be better off seeing the nurse rather than the doctor. They can do the checks on you. They can, if you've got a bandage that needs changing or cut that needs to be checked, that's what the nurses can do. So you don't always need to see a doctor. Nurses can deal with a lot of that behavior, deal with a lot of medical needs that you don't really even need to see the doctor for.
Very true. I used to teach a doctor here, and he told me, in all honesty, and I'm not sure all doctors would say this, but the nurses do all the hard work in the hospital. They really do.
Yeah, they do a great deal of work. So respect them, enjoy International Nurses Day, honor and recognize their contribution. That's all the time we've got. Thanks for watching. For English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Vocabulary Review.
Establish. This tea shop was established in Tainan in 1993 and now has stores all over Taiwan. Recognize. David has an award to show that he was once recognized as the best student in his class. Educate. The bank is trying to educate its customers on the importance of using strong passwords for their accounts. Profession. Lisa didn't know what to choose as her profession, so she tried several part-time jobs first. Emergency. The teachers are trained to deal with emergencies, such as fires and earthquakes. Strike. In 1665, a disease struck the small English village of Eyam, and killed about half of the population.
智慧小补帖。
Legacy. In fact.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net